I made a video about 2 years ago called JP Ward's Random Glass Blowing Story. And at the end of the video, I said, me and my roommate got spiked. Somebody gave us something they shouldn't have. And we ended up out in the woods scaring the hell out of each other and ho hum. So that's pretty much true. And while having this experience, the voice in the woods said to me in particular, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I'm just saying for me in particular, something to the effect, now I'm 22 years old, all right? So I'm not going to come up with this. This is not something that was in my subconscious. This is not something that I would even think of because that was not my motivation. I was rocking and rolling. I was headed to New York City to do comedy and blow glass and make pipes and bongs and, be a legit artist, comedian and artist in Manhattan. So this was not even close to being something that came from me, in my opinion. I don't know. But the voice in the woods said, it's too much. Like, there's too much for us to spin. And no matter what you do in the arts, as an actor, as a glassblower, as a wrestling personality, as a sketch comedian, as a politician, you'll never get it off the ground because it's too much for us to spin. It's too much. Too much shit happened prior to me going to Vermont, prior to the age of 21, in order for the powers that be to make it work. And the backlash from that would upset the balance of the universe, I guess. I mean, I say that jokingly, but I don't really know. I don't know. But I was performing with Vermont Playback Theater at Burlington College during that time. And playback theater is a form of improv. It was the first improv troupe that I ever performed with. And it's way more theatrical and mainstream. I mean, you could get humor out of it, but the point of it is not to be funny. It's basically to perform short plays off the top of your head instead of, short sketches off the top of your head, like what I'd eventually do. And obviously all that went away, and I was sleeping on my parents' couch, and I decided to perform and to train at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, which is now out of business down in Manhattan. And that was a really fun experience. I did a couple of courses with them over the course of like 3 or 4 months. And I learned a lot. And then I ended up sleeping in my car, and I got a page one day. I still had a beeper. This is in '04. And it was one of the kids that I used to babysit, wanting me to meet them at somebody's house. So I did. And there was a couple high school kids there, and then their older brother who I knew. And they basically wanted me to teach them how to do improv. And so we did a couple exercises, but I didn't think anything of it. And they said, okay, we're an improv troupe now. Like, what? Yeah, we're an improv troupe now. I said, okay, then we're Ozone Comedy. Ozone Improv Comedy Troupe. Great. And, we started rehearsing, and eventually I got some money together, and we bought an editing suite, when it was cool to have an editing suite. Before it was cool to have an editing suite, when they actually cost, $10,000. And we started making sketches for something called ifilm.com, which is a precursor to YouTube back in 04, 05. And the original members are the guys in this picture. From left to right, it's Nick, Dick, me, and little Justin. And we had other members that would come in and out or just do, random sketches for us. Big Easy was the guy who played Ronald McDonald in the Ronald McDonald sketch. I want you to Google that. Ronald McDonald True Hollywood Story. Fat Joe is the fat kid in the Lost Subway commercial. Look that up. And we eventually started doing live events, and they got really rowdy. And we were at a coffee house one time, this hipster coffee house, and Nick, we needed a replacement, so this little gay kid was a replacement for us. And Nick was playing Batman, and the little gay kid was playing Aquaman. And Nick got in his face and screamed at him that he was a fag. You faggot! Right? And like all of a sudden you just hear like the whole place go silent. And like the owner of the coffee house, who's a lesbian, just like stares at me, gives me the evil stare. And then we got kicked out of there. So we were looking for another place, and we went to the Webster Theater in Hartford. And at first we were at the Webster Underground. And the first gig that we had there, we opened up for Craig Gass from the Howard Stern Show, at the time from the Howard Stern Show. Now he's on Opie and Anthony. He's a stand-up. And we opened for him, and he dubbed us Punk Rock Improv. And this picture was from that show that we opened up for Craig Gass. And so we're Ozone Improv Comedy Troupe, Punk Rock Improv from East Hartford, Connecticut. And it was great. It just kind of went on that way for a while. But we kind of did everything that we could do locally in Hartford County, at least all that we wanted to do. I mean, we were playing we bombed the second time we were there. We went on the main stage, and we bombed really, really bad. Like, really bad. And we got booed off stage. And so after that, we were like, fuck it, let's go to New York. And we were trying to find somebody to give us a residency in New York. And the Hot Comedy Club in Times Square booked us for a Saturday night show. And we handed out like 3,000 flyers in Times Square. And we go to the theater, and we're all set to see like a line around the block, and nobody showed up. And this is over the course of like 2.5 years, by the way. It was just, drinking, smoking pot, sketch comedy, and skanks. Gay skanks for me, and little high school skanks for these guys, But drinking and smoking pot and all that stuff. And whole lot of 7-Eleven coffee. But my thing was, okay, well, if New York wants nothing to do with us, and it took us 6 months to beg our way into Times Square, and they want nothing to do with us, and nobody showed up to our shows, and the club owners won't promote us, and then like, what's the fucking point? And we did stuff for film festivals. And I sent out a bunch of demos, and it just never took off. And we did a lot of sketch comedy. We made probably over 100 sketches, did about a dozen live shows, maybe even more. And we took a break for a while these guys were seniors in high school going crazy. And then like in 2008, we went back to it and made couple dozen more sketches, and we tried to get booked. Nobody would book us. And then the speedballing started. The cocaine started, and the heavy drinking started, and the getting stabbed by our girlfriend started, and the suicide attempts started, and the DUIs started, and I was like, oh, fuck this. Man, that was crazy. So like, I'm done with this shit. But that was like, the story of like the voice in the woods basically telling me that no matter what I do in the public eye, nothing's ever going to work because whoever they were talking to me, whoever it was that was talking to me, was like, "There's just nothing we can do for you. You just settle down and you have a normal life because it's too much for us to spend." And I've been actively doing stuff online since 2004, and it's 2022, so 18 years, and nothing I've ever done's gotten over. Nothing we did with the Ozone Comedy ever got over. You can look up our YouTube page, youtube.com/Ozone Comedy. You can Google the JP Ward Show. You can Google just my name, JP Ward, and all sorts of comedy bits will come up, wrestling bits, and just bits in general. But nothing we ever did ever got over. Nothing I ever did got over. Especially after my experience in the woods with the voice. I'm pretty much just talking to myself because nobody's going to ever hear this. But there were obviously other attempts in wrestling, and I went up to Hollywood and amateur hour bullshit and putting our entire catalog on YouTube, and it would just get taken down. Or something would just fail. I mean, that was 20 years ago that I heard that voice in the woods. I don't know. Probably just better off settling down, calling it a day. I'm in my 40s now. These guys are all in their late 20s and 30s. Some of them have kids, married. It was just a fun little blurb in the mid 2000s. Sex, drugs, and sketch comedy. Yikes.